Hi, you guys. I am going to go over your quiz from yesterday with you. Please make sure that you look at your quiz, you figure out what you did wrong, and then I'm going to do a few extra practice problems with you, and then I'm going to have you retake this quiz, okay? So the first question, number 1, said x to the 7th power, and then that was raised to the 3rd power. So this is a situation where we have a power to a power. And so anytime you have a power to a power, you multiply those two exponents. So that would be x to the 21st. Okay. Now on number 2, you had a -3 multiplied by a to the 5th multiplied by a w multiplied by a y to the 3rd, and then all of that product is raised to the 3rd. So whenever you have a product raised to a power, every factor of that product has to get that power distributed to it, okay? So you needed to do -3 to the 3rd power, and then a to the 5th, right here, a to the 5th raised to the 3rd is going to be a to the 15th. And then this is w to the 1st. So this w to the 1st raised to the 3rd would be w to the 3rd. And then y to the 3rd raised to the 3rd would be y to the 9th. Okay, and then when you do -3 to the 3rd power, that's -27. So your final answer was -27, a to the 15th, w to the 3rd, y to the 9th. Okay, on the next one, number 3, you had x times by y to the 2nd raised to the 3rd, and then you had x to the 4th, y, and then those were raised to the 3rd. So step 1 is to distribute this exponent to both of these. So this needed to be x to the 3rd, and then y to the 2nd raised to the 3rd is y to the 6th. And then for this one, you need to distribute this exponent to both of these. So that becomes x to the 12th, y to the 3rd. And then now we're going to multiply like bases. So the x to the 3rd and the x to the 12th are going to multiply together, and the y to the 6th and the y to the 3rd are going to multiply together. So that gives us x to the 15th, y to the 9th, final answer. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next one. On the next one, you had d to the 3rd over d to the 7th. So I'm going to write this out for you. D times d times d over d times d times d times d times d times d times d. So that's d to the 3rd over d to the 7th. This d over t cancels to a 1 over 1. This is a 1 over 1. This is a 1 over 1. So on the top, all we have left is a 1. And on the bottom, we have d to the 4th power. So 1 over d to the 4th. That was your final answer for that one. Okay, the next one, we have 3a to the 2nd, b to the 3rd, c to the 2nd, and then we have 12, a to the 7th, b, and then we have c to the 5th. Okay, so this is b to the 1st. When you are applying the quotient rule, if you go ahead and separate these so that you have the two numbers together, because we're going to simplify that fraction, and then all of the like bases, that will really help you to know how this simplifies. Okay, so I'm just going to separate this out as like bases. Okay, and then 3 over 12, that simplifies to a 1 over 4. And then a to the 2nd over a to the 7th. That looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these two cancel as a 1, so you're really left with 1 over a to the 5th. So remember, when you are dividing like bases, you really just subtract the exponents. And then b to the 3rd, 1, 2, 3 over b to the first would be a b to the second over a 1. And then c to the second over c to the fifth, these would cancel to a 1, so that would be 1 over c to the third. Okay, and now we do top times top times top times top, so that would be a b to the second. And on the bottom, we have 4a to the fifth, c to the third. So that would be our final answer for that one. Okay, number 6, we have x to the 12th, and then we have times by x to the 13th. So whenever you're multiplying like bases, you keep the base the same and you add the exponents. Okay, and then number 7, we have 5y to the 4th, and then we are multiplying by negative 7y to the 5th. So these two are being multiplied together. Okay, so think about this as 5 times negative 7 and y to the 4th times by y to the 5th. So that would be a negative 35y to the 9th. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to give you some problems to practice, just like this quiz, and then at the end of these practice problems, I am going to give you a retake that I want you to do on the back side of your quiz, okay? Okay, so for the first one, x to the 10th raised to the 2nd. So go ahead and get out a separate piece of paper so that you can do this problem on your piece of paper, and then you can push pause on the video and then push play, and I'll go over the answer with you. Okay, so write this problem down, push pause, try it, then push play. Okay, so for this one, you should have recognized that this was a power to another power. So you should multiply the two exponents together. So x to the 10th raised to the 2nd is x to the 20th. Okay, here is your next one. Okay, so write this problem down. Negative 2a to the 4th w y to the 3rd, and then I want you to raise that to the 2nd power. Okay, so write this problem down, push pause, then try it, and then push play. Okay, so hopefully you have tried this on your own paper. This one should have been negative 2 to the 2nd power, and then a to the 4th raised to the 2nd should be a to the 8th, and then we have w to the 1st raised to the 2nd, so that should be w to the 2nd, and then we have y to the 3rd raised to the 2nd, so that should be y to the 6th. And then a negative 2 squared, negative 2 times negative 2 is really a positive 4, so 4a to the 8th, w to the 2nd, y to the 6th. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, on the next one, I want you to do x to the 2nd, y, raised to the 4th, and then I want you to multiply that by x to the 3rd, y to the 2nd, raised to the 2nd. Okay, so go ahead and write this problem down on your paper, push pause, try it, and then push play. Okay, so for this one, this 4 needs to distribute to this 2, and then the exponent for this y is a 1. So x to the 2nd to the 4th is x to the 8th, and then y to the 1st to the 4th is y to the 4th. Okay, now we're going to take care of this one right here. So x to the 3rd raised to the 2nd is going to be x to the 6th, and then y to the 2nd raised to the 2nd is going to be y to the 4th. Now once you get here, you need to multiply the like bases. So x to the 8th is going to get multiplied with x to the 6th, and y to the 4th is going to get multiplied with y to the 4th. So that becomes x to the 14th, because when you're multiplying like bases, you add the exponents, and then this becomes y to the 8th. Okay. Next one is x to the 4th over x to the 7th. So go ahead and push pause. Try this problem on your paper and then push play. Okay, x to the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4 over x to the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when these cancel to a 1 right here, there's only a 1 left on top. 1 over x to the 3rd power. And you need to write it just like this. The 1 on top and the x to the 3rd on the bottom. Okay, next one. Let's say we have 4, x to the 2nd, y to the 3rd, z to the 4th. This is a 4. And then we have 8, x to the 3rd, y to the 5th, z to the 1st. So go ahead and push pause, try this one, and then push play. So this one, 4 over 8, it's going to simplify to a 1/2, okay? And then you have x to the 2nd over x to the 3rd, because those are like bases. And then you have y to the 3rd over y to the 5th. Those are like bases. And then you have z to the 4th over z to the 1st. So x to the 2nd over x to the 3rd looks like this. So these two cancel, which leaves you with 1 over x. So you have a 1 over x. And then y to the 3rd over y to the 5th leaves you with a 1 over y to the 2nd. And then z to the 4th over z to the 1st leaves you with a z to the 3rd on the top and a 1 on the bottom. So 1 times 1 times 1 times z to the 3rd is just z to the 3rd. And then on the bottom, 2 times x times y to the 2nd looks like this. Okay, now we've got 2 more. X to the 11th times by x to the 22nd. Well, go ahead and push pause, try it, and then push play. Okay, so for this one, it's going to be x to the 33. You would add the exponents when you're multiplying like bases. Okay, and then the last one, 4 y to the 2nd times by -5 y to the 6th. So these right here are being multiplied together. This is just one big multiplication problem. So the 4 needs to multiply with the -5, and the y to the 2nd needs to multiply with the y to the 6th. So this would end up being -20 y to the 8th. Okay, so now that you have had some extra practice, what I want you to do is flip your quiz to the back side, the quiz that you took yesterday, or if you want to just make a new space on your piece of paper that you were just practicing on, and then I want you to redo the following problems, okay? So once you've redone these problems, you'll turn it into Mrs. Higley, and then I'll correct them for you and let you know how you did when you get to class. Okay, so here are your retake problems. The first one says x to the 5th raised to the 4th. The second one says -2 times a to the 5th times w to the 2nd times y to the 1st. That's all raised to the 3rd. Number 3 is x to the 2nd, y raised to the 4th, and then x to the 3rd, y raised to the 2nd. Number 4 is d to the 5th over d to the 8th. Number 5 is 3a to the 4th, b to the 4th, c to the 3rd, over 12a to the 7th, b, c to the 8th. Number 6 is x to the 15th, x to the 10th. Number 7 is 4y to the 6th times by a -6y to the 3rd. Okay, so when you're done with these 7 problems, go ahead and give them to Mrs. Higley. Thank you.